to the basketball zone. I'm Brenton Oxenberry and I'm here with Victor Acosta at the ARC Campbelltown, who are very kind to let us use their stadium for our show. We're going to get straight into the NBL this week. We've just had round 5 and we started off with New Zealand defeating Melbourne in Melbourne 98-92. So who stepped up for Melbourne this week?
For Melbourne was Kyle Adnam with 19 points and Ty Wesley with 17 points. From New Zealand, it was Alex Fletcher with 20 points, 10 rebounds, and Kirk Penny with 17 points, and Thomas Abercrombie with 17 points.
Well, Melbourne, of course, are playing without Chris Goulding with that ankle injury, and also Todd Blanchfield out with a groin injury. They've had a bit of a skid for the last couple of weeks, losing a lot of games. New Zealand struggled a little bit. They ended up taking it to overtime. And Paul Hanare, the New Zealand coach, made a brilliant tactical decision in the overtime, putting in big man Rob Lowe for Alex Fletcher. A bit more of a pick and pop game rather than a pick and roll game. And Lowe came up big and hit 2 threes and managed to carry them through the overtime. So that was a great game to start the round.
So that was a key move from the coach from New Zealand to be able to win that game?
Yep, big time.
Wow.
Jorg gets the friendly roll and gets United started. 3 times this year, including against Cairns. And Penny runs one in. And look, that was a couple of matches ago against the Bullets. Penny working down with Vicona and gets the rollies after by Webster, Penny and Pledger. It wasn't quite how they planned it, but got there anyway. And that's a lovely basket from Lowe. Tomlinson, Adnam, he'll take the shot and make it! And that is something to take the quarter time in the second. Absolutely. Oh, young Kyle with that early fire. Well, he's been the surprise. Oh, and another one. And another one! Jackson. Moore got balanced. He gets the 3. And a fantastic find. Matthews down. Back to Anderson again, working Vicona over time, taking the shot, taking the points, and
Game number 2, we had the Cairns Taipans defeat Sydney Kings 64-57 in Cairns. That was a horribly ugly game, very low scoring. But who managed to get on the scoreboard for that?
In that case, for Sydney, Kevin Lish with 15 points. We got Jason Cady with 11 points and Josh Powell with 11 points. From the Cairns, Mark Worthington with 12 points, Fuquan Edwin with 11 points, and Nathan Chawai with 10 points.
Well, that was a pretty ugly game. The team started a combined 1 of 16 from the field. Took them nearly 4 minutes to even get on the scoreboard. Physical game, lots of fouls, just not good to watch, so we're going to skip right past the rest of that.
Okay. Maybe they were playing good defense.
Well,
for those who like good defense, will appreciate a game like that.
Good defense is tough to watch though, when it's on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't fun. Game number 3 was an absolute screamer. In Perth, the Perth Wildcats defeating the Adelaide Sixers 106-103. Jerome Randall had a huge game.
Yeah, exactly. He scored 40 points and 9 assists.
Who else contributed for the Sixers on that one?
Anthony Mick with this 17 points, and Eric Jacobson with 14 points and 9 rebounds.
It's a pretty good effort on a dodgy ankle as well.
Yeah, but I mean, Jerome Randall put on a show there. 40 points. He almost got the double-double. Seems like he's playing an MVP performance.
I think he definitely is a clear front runner for the MVP at this point. I mean, the Adelaide 36ers already playing without Mitch Creek and Daniel Johnson. He really just put him on his shoulders, and he almost got it done for them. There was some controversial calls at the end of that game. Jerome Randall got called for a charge on Perth big man Matthew Knight, which was not a charge. I mean, I know that I'm biased, I'm a 36ers fan, but that was a terrible call. Even the commentators in the game, Shane Hill came out, you know, you just can't call that. And I'm sure that many of you guys will have your own opinions on that. But it's just frustrating.
But why so close the game? Why the Sixers couldn't make the move to get that win?
Well, Perth beat us up inside. They killed us in points in the paint, and Adelaide had a terrible first half. We were down, I think 16 at half time. Jaron Johnson came out really big, hit 5 threes in the first half for Perth. And then Randall just went nuts in the second half and dragged us nearly all the way back. But then a couple of dodgy calls, one where there was a no call on Nathan Sovey. And then, yeah, that charge with the scores, I think it was 103, 101. Randall should have been shooting to tie it up. And Matthew Knight flopped his way into the win. So, but no, absolutely, Jerome Randall put in a huge game. It was great to see. What's his name? Anthony Drimmick finally get on the scoreboard. He'd scored a total of 6 points this season before tonight. Was a great scorer in college and is finally, I think, getting his touch back here in Australia. But no, we have to accept that loss and move on.
Yeah.
Johnson left all alone, and he knocks down his... Raven down line, 3 on the shot clock. He scoops it up, and he got it to drop. A blocking Kobe. McKay with a massive block. Huge rejection from Jameel McKay. Now Crater launches a 3, and the Wildcats go.
Like the team does, so we'll move on to the next game. Next game was New Zealand defeating the Brisbane Bullets 86-70 at the Vector Arena in New Zealand. So who was on the board for that one?
From New Zealand, Kirk Penny scored 30 points and 7 rebounds and 4 assists. Thomas Abercrombie with 13 points and Isaiah Tueta with 13 points.
And for Brisbane?
And from Brisbane, it was Jermaine Beal with 16 points and Mitch Young with 14 points. It seems like it was a close game.
For the most part, I think it was. New Zealand were up going into the fourth quarter, and then Kirk Penny just went nuts. Hit four threes.
In the fourth quarter?
Yeah, 3 threes in the first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter. And Brisbane just couldn't match him, especially down the track. New Zealand played some great defence. And Brisbane only scored 2 points over the last, I think, nearly 4 minutes, which just isn't going to get it done at the end of a game.
Yeah. They need to understand how to close the game. Maybe they need another player to help them close the game.
Yeah, well, Jermaine Beale scored 16 points, which was 2 8-point bursts, I think. But Adam Gibson, being a former Boomers guard, probably needs to step up in that situation. I haven't actually got to watch that game, unfortunately, but I think running some more plays for him and trying to get him going a bit more in the offense could have really helped him in that situation. New Zealand also lost Ben Woodside to plantar fasciitis injury, and he's going to be out for approximately 2 months, which is a big loss for them. Isaiah Tuerta played some really good minutes in his stead, and as a development player going forward, I think he's going to have a really big role for New Zealand as well.
Sounds good.
Okay, so the next game was the Illawarra Hawks defeating Melbourne United 82-73. Melbourne, of course, without Goulding and Blanchfield, as we mentioned before. So who put up points for them on this night?
For Melbourne was David Anderson with 23 points and 8 rebounds, and Devin Williams with 13 points and 7 rebounds. For Illawarra Hawks, Nick Clay with 15 points, and Rodney Clark with 14 points, and Mitch Norton with 13 points.
Well, Illawarra led by 11 at half-time in that game, and Melbourne made a pretty strong push back at them, led of course by David Anderson, probably Australia's best ever power forward to come out of this country. It's probably a good game for him. He hasn't really stepped up this season as of yet, certainly not to the extent I thought he would. Being a player with NBA experience and multiple EuroLeague titles, I hope this game really starts to get him going, because Melbourne's really going to need him going forward.
Yeah, definitely. He's coming fresh from the Olympics, right?
Yes.
He played in the Olympics, so he...
His 4th Olympics, I believe it was, which is a pretty fair effort from anyone. But yeah, Melbourne, until Chris Goulding come back and Blanchfield, they're missing a lot of scoring. Adams had a couple of big games, but they need more of their guys to step up.
Yeah.
All right, going to the last game of the round. It's a rematch of the Sydney Kings and the Cairns Taipans, and Sydney got it done 79-77 in a bit of revenge for Saturday night. Who were the leading scorers on this one?
For Sydney, Bradley Newley with 15 points, Kevin Leach with 15 points, and Greg Whittington 14 points, and Jason Caddy with 11 points. For Cairns was Nathan Chawai with 19 points, 7 rebounds, and Cameron Livgon with 15 points. Seems like it was a really close game, that one.
It was. It was a very physical game. There were 4 unsportsmanlike fouls handed out after a bit of a tussle. Kevin Lish hit a beautiful step-back jumper from the right wing to win that. There's 0.3 left on the clock, and Fupan Edwin couldn't make a desperation 3 to save the game. Out of that tussle with the unsportsmanlike fouls handed out, the game review panel very disappointingly handed Cadee a $375 fine, and that was it. I think that's another pretty poor decision making especially in light of the 36ers Terence Ferguson getting an initial 2-game ban down to 1 game with an early plea for striking Worthington a couple of weeks ago. I mean, in this tussle, you know, there was a couple of players tied up. Someone had someone in a headlock, literally a headlock, and to have, you know, no suspensions and a pretty measly fine come out of that, I think is very inconsistent on behalf of the NBL. And it's certainly something that I would like to see reviewed at some point.
I agree. It should be more strict. They're setting an example for the fans, sportsmanship, and how the game needs to be played, right?
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Yeah, they need to set up examples. Yeah.
All right, well, we're 5 rounds into the NBL. Why don't you give us a quick recap of the league's current leading scorers?
Okay, so our leading scorers in points is Jerome Randall with 25.6, Cassie Prater with 21.3, we got Nathan Sobey with 17.3, we got Kirk Penny with 16.6 points, and Kevin Leach with 16.3 points. When we move to the assists, we again have Jerome Randall with 5.6. We got Ben Woodside with 5.5 assists, Cedric Jackson with 5.3 assists. We also got Jason Caddy with 4.9 assists, and we got Damian Martin with 4.3 assists. When we move to the rebound category, we got Torrey Craig with 9.9 rebounds. We got Greg Whittington with 9 rebounds. We got Matthew Knight with 7.8 rebounds. We got Alex Pletcher with 7.6 rebounds. And we got AJ Ogilvy with 7.5 rebounds.
Well, that brings us to the end of our NBL Round 5 review. Sydney sitting pretty comfortably on top of the ladder at this point with 6 wins and 2 losses. Perth has made up some ground after struggling early, as have New Zealand and Cairns. Then we have Brisbane, the 36ers struggling along. Illawarra Hawks and Melbourne United with the current wooden spoon. So we're going to take a short break. We'll come back with some Aussie action in the NBA.
Oh, hello. I'm the hairy fairy of Speed a Lot, and where I come from, things can get pretty hairy on the road. But you're lucky. In your land, most of the time, most drivers don't speed. Oh, hush now, it's true. Come, let me show you. Hey, see? Here's a normal driver following the speed limit. But some drivers can make things hairy out there. When you go over the limit, things can get hairy. And every 5Ks over 60 doubles the risk of a casualty crash. Hey there, I know that driver's close and you're tempted to start speeding as well. But things could get hairy, and it's easy to stick to the speed limit. Hooray! Tense. You really want to get home, but try and save time on the road and things can get hairy. And you really don't save much time anyway. So let's all slow down before things get hairy, because there's nothing normal about speeding.
Okay, so we're back with the basketball zone video competition. So we have a new competition here in the basketball zone where we want to know if you are the next Joe Ingles or the Nova. Please send us your basketball video. It could be you playing in a 5-on-5 game, 1-on-1, in your background, in a park, whatever. Just send us your video and show us what you got. Send us the video with the hashtag #YourBall and show us what you got. Remember that all entries must have people in the video who are 18 years or older. Prizes will be awarded at the end of the NBL season. Now we're gonna move to talk a little bit about the Australian players that are playing right now in the NBA. So first we're gonna start with Ton Maker.
Thon Maker, of course, was the 10th overall pick going to the Milwaukee Bucks. Scored his first points in the NBA just this week. Came into the game and hit 2 threes in 25 seconds. So hopefully he can be a contributor for them going forward. Milwaukee needs shooting. Chris Middleton went down for them, out for at least 6 months. So hopefully he can come in and help replace some of that three-point shooting that he gave them. Also in Milwaukee, we've got Matthew Dellavedova. Just signed a 4-year deal there. He's playing pretty well. He's averaging up near 30 minutes a game. Just doing Matthew Dellavedova things, moving the ball, playing aggressive defense.
I guess that injury that they had was a beneficial move for Dellavedova to play more minutes, right?
They also traded away one of their backup point guards to bring in Michael Beasley.
Houston Rockets.
So there's certainly more minutes there for Dellavedova. They've got Jason Terry coming off the bench as well, but he can't play that many minutes anymore. So hopefully he'll carve out a nice role for himself there in Milwaukee. Next up, of course, we've got Andrew Bogut playing in Dallas. Dallas, of course, out to a horrendous start.
5-1?
That's right, five losses and 1 win. Coming against Milwaukee this week, Bogut was huge in that game, had 16 rebounds. Dirk Nowitzki's out for at least a week, probably more, with an Achilles injury of some sort.
The new contract that they got from the Golden State Warriors play a huge part on that game that they won, right?
Yes.
For like 34 points. I think it was
Barnes, career high 34 points. Yep.
I think if it wasn't for him, Dallas would have lost.
Oh, definitely. The production that Dallas is getting out of Harrison Barnes is as much as they could have hoped for coming into the start of the season. He's scoring efficiently. He's playing good defense. He's finding his way in the offense. They've had some other big contributions, of course. JJ Barea was huge in that game against Milwaukee. Threw one of the best death Hail Mary passes I've ever seen in a basketball game to Wes Matthews for the 3 that sealed the game.
Is Deron Williams injured?
He is. He missed the last game with a groin injury. We're not sure how long he's going to be out for. Devin Harris is also out injured. Barea is playing with a sore elbow. He dislocated that elbow earlier in the pre-season. Andrew Bogut missed a game for personal reasons against Portland that we also lost. But no, I think Dallas will put it together a bit with Dirk not playing.
They
can play Harrison Barnes at the 4. They can put a lot more defensive lineups on the floor and a lot more speed. Actually, Dorian Finney-Smith went from the last guy to make the Mavs roster to playing 31 minutes in that game against Milwaukee. Ended up guarding Antetokounmpo for most of that time and did a really great job. Took him out of the game. He only made the one bucket, I think, made a 3-pointer. But for an undrafted guy,
solid job
playing for his contract. That's a pretty fair effort.
But hopefully they start improving a little bit better and their injury players come back and play.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
Okay.
We need Dirk.
Yeah. I guess the next team and next player is
Joe Ingles.
Joe Ingles from the Utah Jazz.
Yep.
I haven't heard anything about him, to be honest. I don't think he's doing a great job. I haven't heard anything.
He's playing his role. Now that Gordon Hayward's back, of course, there's a lot less minutes for him to go around. Joe Johnson will be soaking up what's left of the small forward minutes there, I'm guessing. Dante Exum they're slowly playing him back into the lineup. But again, they've got a lot of guards, Rodney Hood, Alec Burks, who's out injured. But they've got a pretty good squad this season. They've started okay. Rudy Gobert is a monster. Derek Favors hasn't quite hit his stride yet. But with Gordon Hayward back, they should go back to winning a few more games.
And I think they beat the Spurs.
They did beat the Spurs.
They beat the Spurs. They surprisingly beat the San Antonio Spurs.
The San Antonio Spurs are an interesting case this season. Of course, they've got Patty Mills, who's starting now that Tony Parker's shut down for a week or so. But they've got no rim protection. They've got Pau Gasol and LaMarcus Aldridge. They've got David Lee. They've signed Dwayne Dedman, who's their only shot blocker at all. And I just don't know if he's going to cut it, especially in the Western Conference.
I think they're still doing pretty well with Kawhi Leonard. I think they still have a really solid team. And
They
I
do.
think they show us that against the Golden State Warriors, the first game.
They do. They're still going to be, probably a top 3 team in the West. But when it comes to the playoffs, well, they come up against bigger teams or teams with really good penetrators. I think that lack of rim protection is really going to hurt them, and they're going to suffer a lot of points in the paint. But then, Kawhi Leonard.
Kawhi Leonard, LaMarcus Aldridge, Paul Gasol, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili is still there. He's a solid player.
Yeah, Danny Green.
Danny Green.
Who's out injured for another 2 weeks or so, but, great defender, great shooter. They got a good squad.
Yeah, definitely. They are top three team in the West, definitely. Yep.
All right, we'll go on to Aaron Baines playing in Detroit. Again, not a lot of minutes to go around behind Andre Drummond and Boban Marjanovic, who they signed away from San Antonio. But again, playing his role, he's a big physical guy and puts in the effort when they need it. Unfortunately for them, they haven't had a great start either. But again, I like their roster. I like what Van Gundy's building there. I think they've got a lot of potential going forward.
Isn't it the point guy injured?
Reggie Jackson, yeah.
He's injured, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's injured. Maybe that's a big. They're feeling the impact of not having him. He was one of their leaders, scoring, assists.
Yeah, he was a big part of what they were doing. I think they've got Ish Smith at the guard spot currently. They got a couple of young guys. Tobias Harris, they got from Orlando last season. Stanley Johnson, their draft pick from last year, who I really like. I think he's got a lot of upside. So again, probably, not a contending team this year, obviously, but going forward, I like the pieces that they're putting together.
Yep. And lastly, we got the question mark with the 76ers.
Ben Simmons.
We had great expectations about him. We haven't seen, unfortunately, what he can do in the court. He showed us a little bit in the preseason, in some of the games, with his vision of the court. The way that he sees the court, he passes the ball.
His passing is phenomenal. There's really no other word for it. You look through his pre-season highlight reel and he's threading a no-look pass through 4 defenders for an easy bucket. I think once you get him on the court, once Joel Embiid's minutes restriction comes off, I think they're going to be a real handful for just about every team in the league. Embiid is scoring, a point a minute, shooting 66% from 3. Okafor is also coming off an injury. He's on a minutes restriction. Once you get those guys back, Nerlens Noel, Dario Saric, Jared Bayless, who's out injured. They've got a lot of trade bait there. But give them, a season or two, get MB playing, 30 minutes a game, and they're going to be tough to handle for every team in the league.
So there's no timetable for Simmons to return to the court, right?
No, there was a comment from Brett Brown, the 76ers head coach, that he was hoping he'd be back from mid-January, but they've since then backed off of that. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did just hold him out for the season, not take any risks.
Yeah. He's like the franchise player, so why do you risk your franchise player, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this season...
You're not going to do nothing this season, so...
No.
I mean,
they're going to come back and get another good draft pick and...
Or make a good trade.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But no, I think the 76ers have a lot to look forward to. Joel Embiid is just a flat-out monster. I saw him do his dream shake today, which he does very, very well. I've got him in my fantasy league, so I'm really happy about that. I think he's going to be my keeper for a few seasons going forwards if he stays healthy.
If he stays healthy, that's a big question.
It is a big question.
So hopefully he does, and they continue to play a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that brings us to the end of our NBA roundup for today. If you want to get in touch with us, hit us up, give us your opinions on our Twitter and our Facebook feeds. And next week we have a special guest, Botti Nodge, the premier basketball writer in Australia. Will be coming on the show, and we'll get to talk to him about all things basketball.
Wow, that's a great news for our fans. They definitely want to watch the next show.
Absolutely. So you guys have a great week. Play safe, don't get injured like I did, and we'll see you next week.